The gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I give myself such time as I may consume. In 2021, 2022, the FBI did over 3 million U.S. person queries of this giant 702 database, of this giant haystack of information. 3 million queries of United States persons. And make no mistake, query is a fancy name for search. 3 million Americans' data was searched in this database of information. And guess what? The FBI wasn't even following their own rules when they conducted those searches. That's why we need a warrant. 278,000 times. Not Jim Jordan talking about it, not Ranking Member Nadler talking about it. Washington Post reported last May that 278,000 times the FBI found, the Justice Department found, that they didn't even follow their own darn rules when they searched this giant haystack, this giant database of information on Americans. And so what we're saying is, let's do something that the Constitution has had in place for a couple hundred years that has served our nation well and protected American citizens' liberties. Let's make the executive branch go to a separate and equal branch of government, the judicial branch, and get a probable cause warrant to do the search. After all, it's done pretty well for this great country, greatest country ever for a long, long time. Why wouldn't we have that here? And oh, by the way, in a bipartisan fashion, coming out of our committee, 35-2 vote, we said we will even put exceptions in there. If it's an emergency situation, the FBI doesn't have to get a warrant. They can do the search. If it's an emergency situation, they can do it. We put exceptions in there. Here's the fundamental question. I raised this the other day. Here's the fundamental question. Of that over 3 million searches in a 2-year time span, how many of those aren't covered by the exceptions we have in our warrant amendment? What's the number? And guess what? We can't get an answer. They won't tell us, which should be concerning in and of itself. But if it's a big number, we should be particularly frightened. If they don't follow the exceptions and they're searching Americans, searching your name, your phone number, your email address in this giant database, that should scare us. And if it's a small number, then what's the big deal? You don't need thousands if it's a small number. But we can't get an answer to that question. So the underlying bill has got some changes and reforms that are positive, that are good. But short of having this warrant amendment added to the legislation, we shouldn't pass it. This amendment is critical, particularly when you think about the 278,000 times they abused the system, didn't follow their own rules. And now we say, oh, we got some new rules, I'll follow them now. No. The real check we have in our system is a separate and equal branch of government signing off on it. That's how we do things in America. And never forget, this is the FBI who's had some other abuses in different areas. This is why we think this warrant requirement is so darn important. And with that, I reserve the balance of our time, Mr. Speaker.